Hello everyone, this is Yolanda here and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about what I learned from my digital detox, my 30-day digital detox. First I want to give you some stats just to see how I ended the whole month. My average screen time on my phone for the month was 2 hours, and my average pickups for the month on my phone were 50 pickups per day. 2 hours of screen time per day, 50 pickups per day. I only did it for my phone because that was the main device that I have issues with, that I was spending a lot of time on. So overall, I'm pleased with that. The pickups seem to have increased, but I can't tell you because I try to go back to look at my data from December or any time period from last year, and it's not there anymore on my phone. So I really have nothing to compare it to except for what I remember. And I never really tracked the pickups before, so I don't know if it's good or bad. Screen time is definitely improved. Like I said in earlier videos, before I did this detox, my average was usually between 3 to 4 hours. On really bad days, 5 hours. I definitely decreased my screen time, and I'm still monitoring my screen time even though the detox officially ended on Friday, January 31st. I'm still keeping an eye on my screen time and pickups, and they're still staying about average. I have not re-added the apps to my phone, and I don't plan to. I've been accessing Instagram and Facebook and YouTube through my phone, through my computer, which really helps to cut down. Okay, so let's get into what I've learned so far. Number one, first thing I learned, I don't need social media for socializing or for business. When you need to connect with someone, whether personally or professionally, I think the best way to contact them is via email, or if you have their phone number, pick them up and call them. Of course, if they're personal friends of yours, you might text them also, but I really don't need social media to stay in touch, and I think that's an idea that we all carry with us because we get to see so much of our friends, associates, family members' lives via social media. It creates a false sense of intimacy, like I've discussed before in the original digital detox video. You think you know more about that person than you really do. You think you know them better than you really do, but it's really an illusion. Real relationships are forged through real interaction and connection. Preferably, in person, via phone, or at least, through video, so you can see the person and understand their mannerisms, their tone, their expressions. As someone who uses social media, I guess, professionally, it's helpful to have those profiles there. I'm not saying, that I'm going to delete my profiles, because I'm not. I've developed a history with those profiles, that those profiles contain information about me that can lead people back to my website. So I'm not going to deactivate or delete any of my accounts, but I'm not depending on those accounts to connect with other people or do business. Number two, it takes longer than 30 days to change a habit and cement that habit to make it stick. And I know that, one, because as the 30-day break was coming to a close, I still felt a little apprehensive about going back on social media. There's always that little bit of fear there that you might get sucked back in and go back to your old ways. I don't think that's going to happen, but I still have to be mindful of it. So that's how I know that, I still haven't cemented this activity in my brain all the way yet. My brain, psychological functions, emotional, however addiction, shows up or whatever. I know that I'm not fully cured. Never be fully cured because, like I said, I'm not giving up social media. I'm just reducing my usage of it. Anyway, I was Googling how long it takes to change a habit because the popular idea is that it takes 21 days to break or make a habit. When I was Googling that, James Clear's article came up. I noticed he was the author of the book Atomic Habits that I've seen floating around. And then, he had an article about it. And basically he says that the data that supports this theory that it takes 21 days to make or break a habit is not, it's misinterpreted often, as many things are once they hit the internet, and it's just not sound. So I'll link the article in the description box if you want to read it. Some other research institutions more thoroughly study this. So the original guy was like a plastic surgeon, and he based his results off his patients and how long it took them to get used to their new faces or their new bodies, whatever they had gotten altered. So he was basing it off his patients. It wasn't like a controlled study or anything like that. But another, like I said, another institution actually did, a controlled study on habits and research. They tracked lots of people over a period of time, a longer period of time, to see what happened as they tried to break or change habits. And what they found is that it could take anywhere, I think, from a couple of months to a couple of years to break a habit. And I think that makes sense because it all depends on how deeply ingrained a habit is into your psyche. There are probably some habits that you can break within 21 days, or I would say start to break within 21 days. But likely, even though you have changed the habit, there's likely that it's still not, embedded in your psyche. The new habit is still not embedded in your psyche. Forget about the whole 21 days. If you really want to change or break a habit, you've got to practice it for longer than that in order for it to alter your brain in a way that you can effectively change your life. So I know for me that that's also true, which is why I'm continuing to be pretty strict with my social media usage. Number 3, I didn't really understand what boredom was until I couldn't use my phone. I used to have this belief, like when people would say they were bored, I'd always be like, I don't understand how you can be bored when there's so many things around you to keep you occupied. When you've done your whole routine for the day, you've worked on everything that you wanted to work on, and I found this to be especially true on the weekends for me. I would do everything that I wanted to do on the weekends, but there would still be so much time left over because I didn't have my normal work to do. I don't work on the weekends. So I found myself having a lot of extra time left over, and then that's when not being able to pick up my phone and scroll on social media, that's when I truly understood like what boredom is. If I've read books, if I've did some art, did research, taken a nap, went out to run errands, if I did all that stuff, and then there's still many hours in the day and I can't watch Netflix and I can't go on YouTube and I can't pick up my phone and start scrolling, what am I supposed to do? And then that's when it's truly get to the boredom. I don't want to go back and do those things I already done again. I've done them. So that's when I truly understood boredom, and that I was using my phone to fill in those gaps of boredom. All right, number 4, I need to learn how to sit with my emotions. This is not something that I fully grasped in the 30 days. There were definitely times when I felt very uncomfortable with my emotions, and like I said, I just sat with them. I didn't have something to distract me from them. So, I guess what I learned from that is that I just need to give myself more space to be still when I'm dealing with challenging emotions and thought. Number 5, binging streaming devices like Netflix and YouTube, but more so Netflix. That's really the culprit here. I thought giving up social media was going to be more challenging than it was, but it wasn't. It was easy to walk away from social media, but it was much harder to walk away from the Netflix. And like I said in my last video, I think it was week 3 video, I did end up binging Netflix for a whole weekend, the holiday weekend for Martin Luther King Jr. Netflix is hard, especially on the weekends. When the first week of my digital detox in week 1 video, I talked about how the thing that was most challenging for me was at night. Once I was finished doing all my work, I wanted to watch YouTube or I wanted to watch Netflix before going to bed. And that was challenging to stop, but I was able to overcome that. I had books to read and things like that. I think the problem for me is that I do a lot of intellectual labor during the day, and even though I enjoy reading and I do read, sometimes I don't want to think. I don't want to use my mind, because even though reading can be a form of entertainment, you still got to use your mind. You got to create pictures in your mind of the words you're reading. You got to interpret the words that you're reading. And what Netflix and YouTube do is allow your mind to go on autopilot. Yeah, you're thinking about what you're watching, but it's very low level, in my opinion, subconscious thinking. It's not active. For me, that's needed, which is why I'm being a little bit more lax about bringing Netflix and YouTube back. I'm still limiting myself, but I want to watch Netflix or YouTube for an hour or two to decompress my brain from all the thinking that I'm doing. And I don't know what else I could do in that place. You know, if I've read already and I don't want to read anymore, but I'm not ready to go to sleep, I don't know what else to do during that time period to help decompress my brain. So if you have ideas for decompressing that doesn't involve watching series or videos, let me know. Number 6, it's important, it's crucial to have a book with you at all times so that you don't resort to your phone to entertain you. And I learned this when one day I had to go with my mom to the doctor, and I didn't think she was going to be there that long, so I didn't bring a book with me. So I thought I was going to have enough time, so I dropped her off. I sat in the parking lot for a little while, ate my breakfast, and then I had to go run an errand at Target. So I thought by the time I got back she would be close to being done. But she wasn't. It was a very busy day at the doctor's office, so they were running behind. And, you know, I sat there for a while without looking at my phone. I called my aunt to talk with her, and I still had extra time. So what I ended up doing, I did go on my phone. I didn't download any apps, any social media apps, but I did Duolingo. So, you know, I'm learning Spanish, Portuguese, Swahili via the Duolingo app for like 15 or 20 minutes. That's what I did. It's educational, but it still has that addictive quality because it's like a game. So I kind of felt so about that, and I was on my phone. That's why when you're going, if you decide to do this detox, or if you're just trying to change your habits in general, you have to be prepared all the time, because you never know when you're going to be in a situation where you need to occupy yourself for a period of time. The final thing that I learned from this detox is that you definitely get much better sleep when you're not on your phone. I don't know if there's a difference between the blue light that emits from your phone and the blue light that emits from your laptop, because, you know, I still spend a lot of time on my laptop working and writing and stuff like that, but I just didn't have the sleep problem this past month that I've had in the past, and I want to attribute that to not being on my phone as much. I feel like the waves coming out of the phone are doing something different to my brain than the waves coming out of the laptop. I got some really good deep sleep this month, and I also think that, you know, reading before bed definitely helped. Reading a lot, like I would be reading like 2 hours before bed, which surprised me, but when you got a good material, you can keep going. But yeah, I think there's something different about being on your phone than being on your laptop, and maybe it has something to do with the scrolling effect. That's my guess when I'm trying to think about the differences in how I use my laptop and how I use my phone. I think one of the main differences is how apps are set up. That process of scrolling, the never-ending feed, I think that messes with your brainwave. Obviously, it's what's contributing to your addiction. So it's messing with your brain in some way that the laptop does not, so that when you use the phone a lot, it's harder to sleep. I guess it's harder for your brain to disconnect from those previous activities, from that function, than it is when you're on your laptop and then you go to sleep. I don't know. More research needs to be done. These are just my experiences. All right, so now it's time to talk about my rules as I continue on this journey. So my plan is to have a social media day, 1 day per week, where I do all of my social media activities. I don't know if this is going to work out, because the first day, last Friday, when I went back on Facebook, after about an hour or two on Facebook, checking notifications, sending messages and things like that, I had a headache. So I had to stop, and I didn't even get to go see what's on Instagram. So I ended up looking at Instagram the next day, but I only stayed on Instagram for like maybe 10 minutes, if that. Just checking my messages, checking my notifications rather. I may have to spread out. I may have to have more than one social media day. So maybe like 3 days a week, maybe like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday or something. And just do like 1 hour per day. Because I feel like if I try to do all of my social media in one day, I'm gonna become overwhelmed and get a headache like I did. I'm still working on that rule, but basically limit the days that I can go on social media, limit the days and the time I can be on social media. Streaming services, Netflix and YouTube, Hulu. My rule is that I can only watch them on the weekend, and I think that can work. Although I've already broken that rule Monday night, but Monday was sort of like a holiday. So, but yeah, I've broken that rule, but I only watched 1 hour. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. The weekends, I'm testing it. So if I find myself watching more than one episode during the week at night, then I'm going to definitely restrict myself to just the weekends. If I can control myself and just watch one episode per night, then that can work. But yeah, the goal is to watch streaming services on the weekends only. I need to make a habit of contacting people in more meaningful ways. If I don't have their information, then obviously I'm going to have to go through social media if they're on social media. But if I do have their information, then I'm either going to call them, send them a text, or email them. I'm glad I did this detox, and I'm going to continue on this journey until, I want it to become a habit that I no longer have to think about. So I'm going to continue being mindful of my digital usage and restricting myself as much as possible. The detox wasn't hard. Honestly, like I said, except for those few times where I wanted to watch Netflix or YouTube, it wasn't challenging at all. And I think it was because I prepared myself for it months in advance. So if you're thinking about doing your own digital detox, choose a date in the future and start preparing yourself. Remind yourself every day, I'm doing this. Tell other people you're doing it. Announce it publicly, on your social media that you're doing it, to hold yourself accountable and do the things that you need to do to prepare for it. Read Digital Minimalism if you need to. Read Atomic Habits if you need to. I haven't read the book yet, but I do want to read it soon. Make sure, the biggest thing about breaking any habit or forming any new habit, regardless of whether it's social media or whatever, is that you have to prepare. You have to set your intention, and you have to prepare for it to be successful. And you can't give up. I think a lot of people give up too easily in the middle of challenges. So yeah, maybe one day you relapse, but you don't just stop because you messed up one day. You can still bounce back from one day. And I don't know if they talked about this. I think they talked about this in James Clear's article. The key is to keep going, longevity. Every now and then you're gonna mess up. You're gonna have a weekend, like I said, where I binge Netflix. But guess what? Monday, I was right back to my plan. I wasn't even thinking about Netflix. So even when you have those times where you just have one of those days where you can't get it together, the key is to keep going. As soon as you fall off the horse, get right back on the horse and keep going. You have to give yourself some grace on this journey. I think it's the same with minimalism. People always ask me, how can I have been a minimalist now for 7 years? And I tell them that it's a process, it's a journey. It's not like I've been perfectly minimalist the whole 7 years. There have been months where I wasn't following my own minimalist rules. But I never stopped. I never gave up on minimalism and said, I'm going to go back to my, consumption, my excessive consumption and consumerist ways. No, I was committed to minimalism from the beginning, even when I didn't know what it was, and I'm still committed to it. But, I understand that there are going to be times where I need to give myself grace, times where it's going to be challenging to keep up, to hold to your values or, whatever goals or rules you set in place. But the key is, when you fall, fall down for a minute, sit there, check your knee out or whatever, see if it's okay, and realize that it is okay, you will be okay, and then get back up and keep going. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.